What is going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. Today we continue our series on ranking NFL teams, this time the linebacking core, and we have a doozy for you. We're going to rank the NFL teams A through F, all that and much more coming your way right now! All right, Nick, well, we have done the defensive line on the defensive side of the ball, so it's only fitting that we move to the second tier, which are the linebackers, and some would say the heart and soul of every NFL team. And as you can see, I have a special place in my heart for linebackers in the NFL. Nick, why don't you tell us about what we're looking for today?
Yeah, linebackers, like you said, they are the lifeblood of the defense. They're right in the middle. They are the second line of defense. They have to be there when the defensive line is not. They need to be there in coverage with the tight ends, sometimes even with wide receivers. They are very versatile. They have a big role on defense. And if they're not working well, most likely the rest of the defense isn't, and you're going to lose some games. So the ones at the bottom, they got their work to do, but at the top, they deserve their praise. All right, and it all starts off with the F tier, and we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the New York Jets. And with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have just one guy, their middle linebacker. They still need some outside linebackers to really develop this group, fill it out, help them in pass coverage, help them in the run game. They just don't have adequate talent outside of their middle linebacker that they really need. The Cincinnati Bengals, they also need more players. They have average players at best at their positions, but that's at their peak. Right now, they are below average. They really need to fortify this group, get some players that are going to help out their defensive line. You can't always say that the defensive line is going to be there for the linebackers. Linebackers have such a big role, and they're going to need to improve this if the Bengals are going to be a winning team again. The Kansas City Chiefs, as you saw in the Super Bowl, they were horrible at their linebacking position. They got torched. The tight ends for the Buccaneers absolutely took them apart. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to really make this their main focus. They've really solidified the rest of their defense, and now they want to get this taken care of. For the Philadelphia Eagles, they have so many issues that linebacker is not going to be one of them they're going to be able to fix this season. They're going to have to, they've completely overhauled this linebacking core. They had such a great one a couple years ago and then released them all to create some cap space, some cap relief. And so this is going to be the group that they're going to want to improve upon over the next couple of years. And for the New York Jets, they have a stellar all-pro middle linebacker, but it sounds like he wants out. He wants to be traded to another team. And so with him on the out, you're going to be redoing this entire linebacking core, and it's going to be starting from scratch just like the Cincinnati Bengals. So these teams got their work cut out for them for sure.
Yeah, I mean, these teams either have one guy or no guys. There's not a lot of depth here. This, like we talked about in the beginning, the linebacking core is absolutely one of the main pieces that NFL teams need to have available for their rosters. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stop the run. You're not going to be able to be great in pass coverage. There's a lot of things that you're not going to be able to do defensively, and it's going to hold your team back. So look for these teams to really hit the linebacker market, both in free agency and in the draft this year. See what they can get, but these units need to be solidified. Next up, we have the D tier, and we have teams like the Atlanta Falcons, the Cleveland Browns, the Detroit Lions, the Dallas Cowboys, the Baltimore Ravens, the Los Angeles Rams, the New Orleans Saints, and the New York Giants. Starting off with the Atlanta Falcons, this team has made quite a few adjustments over the last couple of years, but they lost a huge piece in Dan Quinn last year. How is this defense going to be run? You still have Foyeseti Aluakon. You have Deion Jones. These guys are really good, but not a lot of pass rush, not a lot of ability to get to the quarterback. So they end up on the D tier. Then you look at the Cleveland Browns. we've talked about it throughout when we talk about the Browns. Their roster is stacked to the nines, except for the linebacker position. The linebacker is the only thing that this team needs to get right in the NFL draft. And I believe that's exactly where they're going to focus on. I wouldn't hesitate to say that they're going to draft linebacker in 3 of the first 4 rounds just to make sure that they have playmakers on this roster at that position. Then the Detroit Lions, you have Jamie Collins, you have a couple of other outside rushers, but nobody that really jumps off the page and says, you know what, that's the guy that's really going to be a game wrecker. That's the guy that's going to hold this team up. I don't like what they have at the linebacking position. They have a lot of work to do as well as they do around their roster. I think that this is not going to be something that they can answer this year, but look for years in the future to have this linebacking core reset and resolved. Then we have the Dallas Cowboys, and you would say, well, why, with the star-studded names that they have on this roster, why are they at the D tier? Well, I'll tell you. Jalen Smith, Sean Lee, and Leighton Vander Esch are incredible talent. No, none of them can stay healthy. I mean, none of them. They cannot stay on the field. I don't really know how many snaps the 3 of them have played together, but I would guess to say it's probably in double digits, in the low double digits at that. I mean, it's pretty sad. So these guys need to stay healthy, and if they can show that they can stay healthy, they'll show how productive they can become. But Sean Lee's kind of a shell of himself at this point, and I doubt that it's going to happen. That's how they end up in the D tier. Then the Baltimore Ravens, they had some really great linebackers. Matthew Judon, Yannick Ngakoue. They had some really top-tier talent to rush the passer, but kind of like the Atlanta Falcons, they're pretty much set in the middle and then nobody on the outside. I look at LJ Ford, I look at Patrick Queen. Those guys are incredible, but what can they do on the outside? Not a whole hell of a lot. The Los Angeles Rams are kind of in the opposite boat. They have some outside rushers. They can rush the passer, but they have nobody to play coverage. They don't have anything that is going to stop the run except for Aaron Donald. And if he gets double or triple teamed, there's nobody in the space behind him to fill those holes. So the Los Angeles Rams have a major hole in the middle of their defense that they have to figure out. The New Orleans Saints, that it's kind of funny. They have Demario Davis, and he's a really good middle linebacker, but they had Kiko Alonso, who they've had for quite a bit, but they traded him to the San Francisco 49ers for Quan Alexander, who is essentially just a one-for-one comparison when you take a look at the type of players that they are. And they ended up releasing him for cap relief. So overall, they ended up with nothing in the end. And it's just pretty sad to see where the New Orleans Saints roster is right about now, specifically in the linebacking room. And then you have the New York Giants. Blake Martinez will get you about 150 tackles a year, which is absolutely incredible. But that's it. I mean, there's really nobody else. There's nobody that really jumps off the page and says that guy's going to get a lot of tackles, that one's going to get sacks. There's nobody like that. And they already struggle on the edge on the defensive line. Now they struggle on the edge in the linebacking room. This defense needs a complete overhaul with the New York Giants, and that's why Joe Judge was brought in, because this seems to be his specialty.
There are a few teams in the D tier list that jump out that are playoff caliber teams. The Cleveland Browns, the Ravens, the Rams, and the Saints. These are teams that need to fix up their linebacking situation if they ever want to make a Super Bowl run. Without fixing up this position, there is no chance that they are going to get past the top teams in their conferences and make it to the Super Bowl. They have to take this seriously. They have to fix this. I mean, you saw what happened to the Chiefs last year. If that's happening to the Chiefs, you can only imagine what's going to happen to your team. That these specific ball clubs are going to have to add to this linebacking group if they're going to make a run for it. Up next in the C tier, we have the Tennessee Titans, the Miami Dolphins, the Houston Texans, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Green Bay Packers, the Carolina Panthers, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Washington Football Team. Starting off with the Tennessee Titans, when you look at this group, there's really nobody that jumps off the page at you. They have a solid middle linebacker, but when he's out there, he's good. Sometimes he's hurt, and you really can't rely on him all the time, which you don't want as a middle linebacker, the quarterback of the defense. Then they got to fix up their pass rush. You bring in a guy like Bud Dupree, which is great, but we got to see how he's going to work in Mike Vrabel's system. Davion Clowney didn't work out in the system, so I wonder if Bud Dupree is going to work out. The Miami Dolphins, they released one of their best players in Kyle Van Noy. Now we're going to see how Jerome Baker does as the sole middle linebacker. They get a couple guys back from injured reserve last season, but overall, this group as a whole has taken a little bit of a downturn. The addition of Benardrick McKinney is yet to be seen how he will play out in this system. For the Los Angeles Chargers, they're kind of missing a couple pieces, specifically in the middle. They got some outside linebackers in last season in the draft and free agency, but they still need to add the quarterback of the defense, figure out who's going to be their signal caller to make the whole thing gel. For the Green Bay Packers, you have the Smith brothers, who are fantastic, but now Christian Kirksey's gone, and you got to replace him. Who's going to keep this whole defense solidified at the middle linebacker position? It's a big question mark that they have to fill. For the Houston Texans, they really don't have a direction they're going, and Nick Caserio is simply acquiring average talent and seeing what his coaches can do with it. It's yet to be seen if it's going to work out or completely blow up in their face. But right now, you just don't know, and it's going to take some time for those guys to gel. For the Carolina Panthers, they have some young talent that are looking really solid, but they're going to have to groom. They're going to have to groom in Matt Rule's system. They're going to have to see how well they're going to do, and they still need to add a middle linebacker. The Luke Kuechly-sized hole that has been left there has not been filled and probably won't ever be filled. For the Las Vegas Raiders, the addition of Yannick Ngakoue was great, but you still need to anchor down the middle of the field. Corey Littleton isn't always there. You got to make sure that you have somebody that can back him up in case of emergencies, and Nick Kwiatkowski is coming into his own, but it's still taking him some time. And for the Washington football team, they still have some work to do. You've got some good talent there, but the Washington football team is going to want to improve upon that. That's probably their weakest position on the defensive side of the ball right now.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look at some of these teams, it seems like they have one thing but not the other, and that's either like a middle linebacker and no pass rush, or a pass rush and no middle linebacker, and that's why they end up as just an average team. But I'll take it one step further. You talked about the Houston Texans, and they're just acquiring average talent. Not only is it just average talent, they're all on 1-year deals. So this group, it has 1 year to prove that they're going to work together. After that, it's going to look completely different next year. And there's no way that one group of players that has to work in unison together can get that much synergy in one offseason and then bring it to the team for the regular season. I think that the Houston Texans have a big mess on their hands if these guys don't work out. So we'll see how that goes. But a lot of these teams, they're right in the same position, just very average linebackers, which is fine. It'll get you to where you want to go. It's definitely not a point of need for your team, but you can definitely upgrade them with some of the top tier talent that is available in the NFL. Next up, we have the B tier, and we start off with teams like the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears, the Indianapolis Colts, the Denver Broncos, the Buffalo Bills, the Seattle Seahawks, and the New England Patriots. Starting off with the Minnesota Vikings, this linebacking core was in shambles last year. Both Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr both missed most of the season with injuries last year. These are two all-pro linebackers that are absolutely phenomenal for this team. Look for them to come back ready to go. They both said they're 100% healthy and ready for the season. I look for them to get back to their old ways. I think the Minnesota Vikings are in a good spot at the linebacking position. The Chicago Bears are headlined by Khalil Mack, and I love what they can do at the linebacking position, but don't forget about Roquan Smith, who roams the middle of the field for them. They can rush the passer. They can pass coverage really well. I love what they can do, and everybody in their linebacking core can stop the run. I like how this team was built defensively. Let's see if it can translate into some wins for them. Next up, we have the Indianapolis Colts, and they are headlined by Bobby Okereke, but also all-pro Darius Leonard. These guys are absolutely incredible. They fly around the field, sideline to sideline, north and south. They can do everything from pass coverage to run defense. These guys are phenomenal. I love what the Indianapolis Colts have done at the linebacking position. If there's one thing that they can draft really well, it's linebackers, and I love what they've been able to do so far in recent years. The Denver Broncos are headlined by Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, and these guys, they've had their injury issues on and off the field, but when they are on the field together, this team is unstoppable. This pass rush can come at you at 100 miles an hour, and you don't even know that they're coming. It's absolutely insane what these guys can do, and I love what they can bring to any NFL defense. They have some middle linebackers there that are pretty average, but overall, the pass rush is what sets this linebacking core apart. The Buffalo Bills, they have invested a lot of time, money, and resources into their linebacking core, and it's paid off dividends. Matt Milano is a huge centerpiece for them. I love what they've been able to do. And then drafting Tremaine Edmonds just a couple of years ago showed exactly what they're looking for. An athletic linebacker can play all facets of defense, pass coverage, rushing the passer, and stopping the run. I love what the Buffalo Bills have at the linebacker position. Then we have the Seattle Seahawks, and they've taken quite a few hits over the last couple of years, including this year specifically. Losing KJ Wright to free agency. Now, he's still available. He might be able to re-sign with the Seahawks, but they're left with Bobby Wagner from the Legion of Boom, and this guy is a B tier in and of himself, and that's how they end up so high on this list, because this guy is absolutely incredible. Like we said with Aaron Donald in the defensive lineman, that's what Bobby Wagner is for the linebackers. This guy is a force to be reckoned with. There's not a single thing on defense that he can't do, and I love what he's been able to prove year in and year out for this defense. If there's a guy that you can rely on in any defense, Bobby Wagner is one of them. And then you take a look at the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick has made it a point to reset this defense through the free agent market this year, and he did not stop signing Matt Judon, Raekwon McMillan, and a couple other players for the edge. He's bringing back Donta Hightower, who sat out last season due to COVID. And then on top of that, you have all the young guys, Chase Winovich, Anthony Jennings, Josh Uche. These guys are ready and hungry. These guys showed a lot last year. They showed a lot of resiliency, a lot of toughness, and their ability to start was everything that you could want from a New England Patriots player. Bill Belichick has to be thrilled with the linebacking room that he has built.
Yeah, when you look at the B tier all around, I think there's the main concern for a lot of them is they got to stay healthy. They're elite talent, but they just have to stay healthy, and you're going to want to make sure that you're doing whatever you have to stay on the field, whether that's putting in more time in PT or taking a couple more ice baths, whatever you have to do. You want to make sure you're out there and contributing to your team. Otherwise, you're going to be the forgotten one on your ball club soon. So I think that a lot of these teams on the B tier have the talent already on their roster. They just gotta stay healthy and put it all together. And rounding out this list with the A tier, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the San Francisco 49ers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Arizona Cardinals. Starting off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is there much more to say than Super Bowl champs? I mean, you have Devin White and Levante David anchoring them down, but you have Shaq Barrett on the outside. These guys are maulers. They absolutely pounce on the quarterback. They can play in coverage. They are so athletic. It's unbelievable that they're on the same team. These guys can really do whatever that's tasked of them, and they really showed out last season as one of the best defenses in the league, and they're going to continue doing that with another year of chemistry underneath them. For the 49ers, once healthy, they're really ready to go. Fred Warner showed last season with everybody else out, he can still hold down his own. He really blossomed as the middle linebacker for them and is really going to flourish in that role with the big elite pieces around him once again. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're in a rough spot, but they still have elite talent with J.J. Watt, Robert Spillane, and Devin Bush. These guys can still hold their own, and they're going to prove that without Bud Dupree, they can still do it. They can still be one of the best linebacking cores in the NFL. And for the Arizona Cardinals, they just have a litany of guys who can really have shown they can do it throughout their career. They have Jordan Hicks and Chandler Jones and Devondre Campbell, and guys like this are not easy to come around, but when they're on this roster, they have really shown that they can do well together. They didn't have an offseason last year, and I think that now that they have an offseason, they're really going to click, they're really going to shine, and this team is ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, the San Francisco 49ers, the big question is, what are they going to look like without Robert Saleh? I think you're going to see a lot of the same old. These guys know exactly what they're doing. They don't need the same defensive coordinator there to know that they have to play sound football. And headed by somebody like Fred Warner, these guys are going to be in tip-top shape. They're going to be able to go really fast and really well. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and, just pointing the fact out, Shaq Barrett was on the Denver Broncos, and they released him, or he didn't re-sign him, and he ended up on the Super Bowl champion Buccaneers, making a name for himself. I mean, just to think of where some of these guys have been and how they ended up where they are, it's absolutely incredible. TJ Watt was a mid to late round, first round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 20 plus teams passed on TJ Watt, and this guy is arguably one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, which is the second most important position on any NFL roster. And then the Arizona Cardinals, we know what they've done all season, all off season long. They have bolstered this defense without fail. They have continued to put pieces in place to get them to the Super Bowl, and I just think that they are in a prime position to get to where they want to go, especially with this linebacking core that they've now set up. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.